Hi, welcome to High Road to You. This is Mark Stouffer. In this video, I want to share with you how critically is important it is to navigate life where you have to make a mess before you can clean it up. I don't care what you're going to do. I was watching something, a documentary on Sylvester Stallone and Rocky. It was on Netflix, and I was truly inspired because where he came from and then what he had to contend with his family, and then to kind of navigate life and write a script. And you looked at the script and it was just a mess. I mean, all these scribbles, it's a complete mess. If you think about a movie, act one, you get introduced to the characters in the movie. Then act two is the shit show, right? It's like the climax of how are they going to get out of this situation. And then act three is, the solution to all the problems and, how everything gets cleaned up. So the success story, basically. And I think most people just give up at act two and they leave the mess, they leave the chaos, they leave the toxic, they just live in that cesspool, right? And it doesn't take much to step back and address the mess, right? So like with the Western culture where, we accumulate all this stuff, the more you build, the more you got to maintain. It's a huge mess. And then you can't keep up with the rust and the boats that collect leaves and the travel trailers that you might have and all the things, China and crystal and the dust that comes into play, and then the rats and the mice. And that's what happened with my grandparents, who accumulated a lot of stuff illegally. They were shoplifters, insurance scams. They were doing identity theft. And it was all of this accumulation of just more and more stuff. And it's an addiction like a drug. And so I think about, sometimes you have to make a really big mess when you open up those storage containers that you never look at and you're not using, you're working for the storage industry. And it could be the travel trailers and the boats that you're storing and paying somebody to, have all this stuff that you can't, have on your own property. But yet you're working for the insurance company, you're working for the maintenance to maintain these things that you might have. You're paying the companies that are storing it for you, and it's just a mess, right? And then you realize you're on this treadmill and you're not happy. And so you don't want your life to end in act two. You want to follow through to act three, where it ends well. So, my proposal is, sometimes you have to make a really big mess before you clean it up. And you got to clean it up. You got to address cleaning up the mess and downsizing and living a life of purpose. We're not here to serve our shit. We're not here to serve our stuff. We're here to experience life on a level where we're accountable to ourselves, we're accountable to other people, and we get to enjoy the world, right? I think most people put themselves in this box, and they live their life through a television screen, watching reruns that they've seen, potentially dozens, if not hundreds of times already. And then they melt into the furniture. And then they realize that somebody else has got to clean up their mess because they don't have the energy to do it. They reach an age, or they reach their health conditions don't allow them to have the energy to deal with the mess. And then it becomes a generational curse. So I just see this so much over and over. And I realize in my life, like whatever we build, we have people that maintain our facilities, our real estate, or whatever it is we have. And if it collects dust or rust or leaves, I get rid of it. Or if it doesn't work for some reason and we need equipment to, get the job done, if it doesn't work, either it gets fixed right away or I get rid of it, because we're not here to look at something deteriorate and it costs you emotionally. People don't realize how much it costs them, because it's always there, in their view, if not in their view, in their mind, knowing that it's something that's just, it's added weight, added unnecessary weight in your life. I think about so many people that have accumulated so much and then they reach a point where it's just not worth it anymore, right? And more than that, it doesn't complement them. It's just a shit show of just the mess, right? And, think about my neighbor, and he had this incredible ocean view. He moved into a trailer, spent over 20 years trying to finish this, what was a beautiful house. But then you walk through the house and the floor plan was outdated. Nobody would be really interested. It wasn't modern. And then if you looked at where he started, it was deteriorating. You couldn't walk, through the door because it was so weathered, and he had a tarp, and it didn't complement him anymore. And then you realize that he spent 20 years in the trailer and didn't fix the house, and lived among the mess of what he created. He never cleaned it up. And he came to me and said, hey, I see your project. You got raw land. You're going to build this house. And I said, yeah, it's a kid home. And it went up in 10 days, dried in. It was a mess for just a period of time. And all that construction material and all the tools and everything that was a mess was cleaned up, and people showed up, and it complemented our lifestyle. And I think that most people don't realize it's so subtle that it doesn't happen overnight, where it's this big, huge mess or this big portfolio that then they have to maintain. That's where people win the lottery, and then it just destroys their life because they become overwhelmed trying to manage money. Money can be a mess, right? Navigating your structure, your entities, and how you navigate your taxes. And it's just a shit show. How many people, athletes that had millions of dollars, and in 5 years they're broke because they're buying expensive jewelry and they're building out these massive mansions, and they don't realize what it takes to maintain all this stuff that doesn't serve them, right? I think it's sad that you buy diamonds, you have to say, oh, I spent X amount for this, because it could be a zirconium diamond. Nobody know the difference. It's just a piece of paper, That's truly, nobody has, it's 10 times magnification that you're going to see how perfect this diamond is as far as color, clarity, cut, and carat, right? It's okay. If I put all these diamonds on the table and said, pick the one that's, $1 million diamond, you couldn't do it. It's like, okay, well, I don't have a trained eye, but even if I did, I'd have to see it through a magnifying glass. So I don't care to tell people how much is spent for jewelry. I'm not into jewelry. And I would say that if you can't afford, expensive jewelry, then you shouldn't be putting it, on your credit card. You should take whatever money you do have and put it towards investment in learning skills, and then buying a zirconium diamond and enjoying how beautiful it looks. And don't say anything, just say, if people compliment your diamonds, just say thank you, right? So, the Western culture influence is so powerful. And I just look at it as one big Ponzi scheme mess that people get trapped into, and then it really doesn't complement them. So why go down that rabbit hole, right? I would say if you feel overwhelmed, step back, look at what's serving you, what complements you, keep those things, and everything that doesn't, you get rid of it. You clean it up and you just move on, right? That's even in relationships. You got to have really good relationships. Do not, live your life every day in a toxic environment. Just don't do it. It's not worth it. You don't have to say anything. People would say, whatever happened? You just disappeared. And yeah, I went into a vocational training and I loved it. I practically lived there. Then I got into martial arts. I got into sports. Went to school and just started learning and just enjoyed those environments where it just fed my soul. And then I thought, why would I ever go back? Because every time I would, navigate a family reunion or people getting together, it reminded me why I left in the first place. And, people would learn about what I was up to, and I just was so busy, I didn't have time for the drama. And I look at it like that toxic mess, that cesspool of just toxicity. Why would I want to get involved with that when I have so much opportunity and have now a world perspective versus living in a box in front of a flat screen, eating junk food, melting into the furniture, and then talking shit about everybody? And then, that's what my family, the generational tradition is, just talk shit about everybody and be angry about everything, and then watch the news and have the TV on 24/7. So it wasn't difficult to find resources and environments that fed my soul. And the comparison of the toxicity with family and the consumerism of identity theft and insurance scams and, shoplifting, it made no sense at all. It was just a complete train wreck, shit show, toxic mess. And so I would say that everybody in the Western culture has some form of that. And I think it's sad that we're this abundance of resource of food. Just think about food. And then we have the highest level of obesity and health problems in our country. Well, if you look at the stores that are 90% processed crap, and then the outer aisles are all the healthy foods, the organic foods, the fruits and the vegetables, and the foundation of what feeds your cells and your organs and your mind. And, it gives you that balance and the foundation. Well, most of it, if you go into a store, that's the mess. That's what's got to get cleaned up out of your life. You eliminate all that, as hard as that can be in the West culture. Convenience is the convenience stores, and people sometimes live their life through a convenience store of nutrition, and then they wonder why they have health problems. It's a challenge, I know, in the Western culture, but there's so many resources available to take the actions to live a healthy life, nutrition, physical and social activity, healthy every day, and then navigate that for a while. You can always go back. You can always go back to the toxic lifestyle that tastes good, I guess. It feels good in the moment. There is an adrenaline rush to it, an addiction like a drug, but I would propose that it doesn't give you a world perspective that you just feel good about and making a difference not only in your life but the lives of others. And so with that, I hope this reaches your heart and your mind. And I'm watching a beautiful sunrise. Life is good, and I hope it's good for you as well. Hope this reaches your heart and your mind and gives you the courage and the inspiration to take whatever actions you need to take in your life. And with that, I wish you well.